I had to get out of the house, so I drove up here to the airport. Not really the airport, but close by. Drove up the back way so I could see, some nature. Not much happening with the trees yet. So the thing that brought me to Charlottesville, well, I got here when I got back from my trip out west to Oregon. The whole time I lived up in Washington, I never had a car, so I didn't need a car. It was an expense, I didn't need. So I got back to National Airport and I rented a car, and then I drove down here to Charlottesville the next day. And the first thing I saw was the downtown mall. Because as you're coming down 29 into, Charlottesville, you get to the bypass, which, if you're just driving down here, you don't realize that that's the way to get around the town instead of going right through it. So I followed the signs that said historical downtown, and drove by the university and all that, and then got downtown, parked the car, and then realized that there was this beautiful outdoor pedestrian walkway that was the whole downtown. Well, I guess it's about 6 blocks anyway. Coffee shops, stuff like that. It was real nice. The thing I first noticed when I came down and sat there, in the downtown mall, was how much cleaner the air smelled than being up in DC. So I'm pretty sure it was that first day, because I was down here, I think 2 days, found an apartment the next day, and then moved down like 3 weeks later, because I had already given notice of my apartment before I moved out, before I went out west, because I knew I was moving. So anyway, since I like the Yes bookstore so much in Georgetown, I wanted to see if there was a good, metaphysical resource bookstore here in Charlottesville, and there was. It's called The Quest. And over the years, I got to know Kay, who owned the Quest bookstore, like a good friend. I asked her, I guess it was after years of knowing her, how she came to have a store like that. How did you get a metaphysical bookstore? She said, well, I used to have a Christian bookstore, and that kind of surprised me. So I said, oh, well, how did you happen to make the shift? And she said, well, the thing was, the more time I spent in church and, hanging around my Christian friends and all that kind of stuff, I started noticing how many times they said us and them. And, for her, it wasn't about us and them, it was about all-encompassing humanity. So she switched gears and, went into, it wasn't a New Age bookstore. I mean, it had all that stuff in it, but the references to Native American, every kind of, well, what you'd say esoteric kind of writings, the kind of stuff I had been studying up, in DC in the Metaphysical Church, the study group that, we had. And so I was glad that, I found that. It's one of the good things about moving down here. Kay now, my friend Kay, she has Alzheimer's. She had to sell the bookstore a number of years ago, and she's still alive. but really doesn't know who she is too much anymore, sleeps a lot. And a friend of mine is her caregiver. You know, she was helping being a caregiver after I took care of Dad, and I spent a year taking care of a lady that I lived in her downstairs. She had an apartment in her basement, but it wasn't really a basement because it had, like, you know, it was on a hill, so it looked out. It had full, you know, ceiling to floor windows. So then I got to know Barbara, who was the other, she was the daytime caregiver. I was the make dinner and, you know, spend the rest of the time with her caregiver. So Barbara's taking care of Kay now. Well, that's about it.